been years now since Vanessa got her inheritance, and after all the lawsuits that came with it, there's talk going around that she might have gone broke. At the same time, people are saying she's been neglecting Kobe's mom, which just made everything messier. Now Shaq is stepping in, kinda calling it out in his own way, especially with him saying he had to check in on her.
I understand the pain she goes through, so I just called, just to see how she's doing.
Here's what we know. The man who showed up January 26, 2020. A helicopter carrying Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 7 others went down in the hills above Calabasas, California. By the time the news hit Shaq's phone, he thought it was a hoax. It was not. His second call was to confirm. His third was to the family. By February 24, 2020, Shaq stood at the Staples Center before 20,000 people at the public memorial, the celebration of life that Los Angeles held for Kobe and Gianna. He gave a speech that moved between laughter and grief. Near the end of it, he looked out at Vanessa and the daughters and made a promise. Just know that we got your back, brother. I'll look after things down here. I promise to teach Natalia, Bianca, and baby Capri all your moves. He kept that promise, but the person he kept it with was not Vanessa. It was Pamela, Kobe's mother. 5 years later, in a September 2025 People magazine exclusive, Shaq confirmed it. He calls Pam every month without fail. He sends flowers. He stays in contact with Kobe's sisters, Sharia and Shea, who live in Las Vegas, close to where Shaq lives. The reason, by Shaq's own account, is one of reciprocity. Kobe used to check on Shaq's parents. Shaq is returning that.
I understand the pain she goes through, so I just called, just to see how she's doing.
Those calls alone would have started conversation, but they were also consistent with a character shift the public had been watching in Shaq since 2020. The same man who had once pointed at Kobe in a Lakers team meeting and said loudly, "There's the problem," who had gone to a New York nightclub in June 2008 after the Lakers lost the finals and freestyled an entire rap record about Kobe not being able to win without him, had become, over the course of a decade of reconciliation, something closer to a brother. When Kobe died, Shaq said he had lost a little brother. He said he hadn't felt a pain that sharp in a while. He said he initially thought the news was a hoax because he could not process the alternative. The grief was visible and genuine, and the way Shaq chose to honor it was not through press conferences or foundation announcements. It was through phone calls, monthly, to a grandmother in Las Vegas who had lost her son and her husband within 4 years of each other. But then came August 2025, Kobe Day, what would have been his 47th birthday, and Shaq took things further. He tracked down Kobe's old 1996 Toyota Land Cruiser, the vehicle the Bryant family had driven during his high school years in Lower Merion, Pennsylvania. Pamela still had it. Shaq had it taken to a California shop and fully restored to its original 1996 condition. No custom upgrades, no modifications, just the car as it was. He gave it to Pamela on Kobe's birthday. The internet noticed. Comment sections across Facebook, YouTube, and Reddit filled with a version of the same sentence. If Shaq, the man who used to go on stage at nightclubs and perform a rap song with the hook, "Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes,"
Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes,
is the one calling grandma once a month and restoring her son's car for his birthday, what is the widow doing with $600 million? That question became content. That content became a title. Shaq exposes Vanessa Bryant for being broke. No statement from Shaq supported that framing. No interview, no post, no press conference. Shaq never called Vanessa broke. He never commented on her relationship with Kobe's family or her decisions as a state administrator. He showed up for Pamela. The internet drew conclusions about Vanessa from the contrast, and the contrast had specific texture. The videos that spread it were not just asking where Vanessa was, they were running numbers. They were pointing at the Land Cruiser restoration and saying, here's a billionaire adjacent woman with $600 million, and the man doing the most visible work of honoring her late husband's family is a former enemy. Here is a grandmother who lived through the 2013 memorabilia humiliation, who lost her son and then her husband, and whose most consistent visitor is an ex-teammate who once performed a freestyle diss about the man she raised. Here is a widow who has been photographed at foundation galas and Lakers events and real estate transactions, who has an active Instagram account, who has not, as far as anyone can tell from the outside, made a single visible gesture toward the woman her husband grew up calling mom. The algorithm amplified the gap. Dozens of channels built content around it. Shaq exposes Vanessa. Shaq calls out the widow. What Vanessa is not doing for Kobe's mom. None of them had quotes. None of them had statements. They had the monthly calls. They had the Land Cruiser. They had the contrast, and that was enough. Now, is there any factual basis for the idea that Vanessa has cut off Kobe's family? Yes, but it did not start in 2020. Kobe's parents did not attend his wedding to Vanessa in April 2001. The disapproval rival was years in the making. Vanessa was a teenager, 17 or 18, when she and Kobe began dating, and the Bryants viewed the relationship with skepticism. Kobe chose Vanessa. His parents did not attend the ceremony. The estrangement started there. It deepened in 2013. Kobe's parents attempted to auction over 100 of his personal items through golden auctions. Championship rings he had gifted them, high school memorabilia, personal letters. Kobe said he had not authorized the sale. He filed suit to stop it. The case settled out of court. Joe and Pamela Bryant issued a public apology for any misunderstanding and unintended pain. The family kept moving, but it did not fully heal. Those terms, the lawsuit, the apology, the distance, were Kobe's choices, not Vanessa's. But when Kobe's estate was placed in a family trust after his death with no reported provisions for his parents or siblings, the public chose to hold Vanessa responsible for choices Kobe had been making since the turn of the century. She inherited the estate. She also inherited the blame for everything inside it. The estate was valued at approximately $600 million at the time of Kobe's death in January 2020. That number has not gone down. It went up because in 2021, one of Kobe's pre-death investments, a stake in the sports drink brand Body Armor, generated a payout estimated at approximately $400 million when Coca-Cola completed its acquisition of the company. The estate that was already 9 figures at death grew by 9 figures after it. Vanessa Bryant is not broke. The story the internet built around Shaq's gestures is a story about family, about old wounds, about grief, and about a set of relationships that was complicated long before the helicopter. Shaq did not expose a financial crisis. He honored a friend. And the gap between what he was doing and what the public expected Vanessa to be doing became a narrative neither of them created. That narrative is what we are going to trace, because the history here is documented. The money fights were real, and the truth about where the Bryant estate stands in 2026 is worth more than a clickbait title. The family came for the money. To understand why this narrative took root and refused to let go, you have to understand the legal and financial theater that played out around the Bryant estate in the 24 months following Kobe's death. Because it was not a quiet administration of grief. It was a cascade of lawsuits, counterclaims, family confrontations, and court hearings that turned one of the most famous widows in America into a recurring villain across comment sections on 3 different social media platforms. And the most damaging blow came not from a stranger, not from a business rival, not from the County of Los Angeles. It came from her mother. December 15th, 2020, 11 months after the crash, Sophia Lane, then 68 years old, the woman Vanessa had grown up calling mom, walked into Orange County Superior Court and filed a 48-page complaint against her daughter, against the Kobe Bryant Trust, against the Vanessa Bryant Trust, against the Pacifica Trust, and against the estate of Kobe Bryant. What Sophia alleged was staggering in scope and devastating in timing. She claimed that for approximately 18 years, beginning around 2002, when Natalia was born, she had served as an unpaid personal assistant and full-time nanny for the Bryant family, working 12 or more hours per day with no breaks, no meals, no holidays, and no paycheck. Media reports subsequently computed her wage claim at approximately $96 per hour, a figure that, stretched across nearly 2 decades of alleged around-the-clock labor, climbed into the millions of dollars. But Sophia's demands went far beyond back wages. At the heart of her complaint was a verbal promise. She alleged that Kobe Bryant had told her repeatedly over the years that he would take care of her financially for the rest of her life in exchange for her service and sacrifice. She alleged that after Kobe died on January 26, 2020, Vanessa had done everything within her power to erase every trace of that promise. The language in the filing was surgical and scorching. Vanessa Bryant took each and every step she could to void and cancel all of Kobe Bryant's promises made to plaintiff. Vanessa Bryant did not intend to honor any of the Bryant's representations, agreements, and promises at any stage. The real estate component alone was labyrinthine. Sophia alleged that Kobe had purchased a home at 4 Windermere Court in Newport Coast for $2.65 million and placed it in a trust structure explicitly meant to protect it for her. When the property was sold for $3.22 million, she claimed the proceeds were used to acquire another home, 54 Shady Lane in Irvine, purchased for $1.7 million. When Vanessa sold that home in October 2020 for approximately $2 million, Sophia alleged she was owed the proceeds and the property both. Beyond real estate, the complaint alleged that Vanessa had forged Sophia's name on an apartment lease after the crash, relocating her into a property she had not agreed to occupy. It alleged that a $50,000 Mercedes-Benz SUV had been converted and removed from her possession under false pretenses. It alleged that her health insurance had been canceled, that her cable had been cut, that $25,000 she had spent on an orthopedic bed had never been reimbursed. The portrait it painted was one of methodical financial suffocation, a woman who had given decades of invisible labor to a wealthy household and was being dismantled, benefit by benefit, in the months immediately following her son-in-law's death. The total demands: a house, the Mercedes, punitive damages, attorney fees, and the back wages, computed across 18 years of uncompensated 12-hour days. Vanessa's response arrived the morning after the filing, through People magazine and her Instagram story simultaneously. She did not soften a single edge. "This is frivolous, disgraceful, and unimaginably hurtful," she wrote. "My mother is continuing to try and find ways to extort a financial windfall from our family." She described the rent-free housing she had provided Sophia for nearly 20 years, following Sophia's divorce and the subsequent financial difficulty that left her unable to afford a home on her own. She described arranging a gated apartment in Newport Coast for her mother following the crash. She said Kobe had never made the promises Sophia described. She said Sophia's role in the household was that of a grandmother who occasionally babysat older children, not a professional employee billing a 12-hour day. "My husband never promised my mother anything," she wrote, "and he would be so disappointed in her behavior and lack of empathy." Sophia's attorneys responded briefly. She only wanted what she had worked for. The spectacle of a widow, less than a year removed from the crash site that killed her husband and daughter, publicly calling her own mother a blackmailer in front of the entire internet, is the kind of thing that burrows into the public imagination and does not leave. For months, the headline, "Vanessa Bryant's mother sues her for $5 million, was circulating alongside footage of Vanessa at courthouses and foundation galas, and the combination made a particular kind of sense to a particular kind of audience. Here's a woman with hundreds of millions of dollars, and the people closest to her are going to court to get what they feel they are owed." What that reading stripped out was context. Vanessa had provided her mother with rent-free housing for nearly 20 years, after Sophia's divorce left her financially unable to support herself independently. She had arranged a gated apartment in Newport Coast within weeks of Kobe's death, while she herself was managing 4 daughters and a $600 million estate through the worst period of her life. The labor claim, when examined, also faced significant legal challenges. By the time of the filing, Natalia, the oldest daughter, was already a college student. The alleged daily 12-hour childcare shifts had diminishing factual support the older the children got. None of this was adjudicated in public because the case never reached trial. The case settled in August 2021. Sophia filed a notice of unconditional settlement on August 5th. Terms were not disclosed. The case was dismissed. The curtain came down without a verdict. But the image remained, a family at war over the money Kobe left behind. And it was not the only image in circulation, because floating in the background of the Sophia lawsuit was the memory of 2013, Kobe's parents, and the auction. Joe and Pamela Bryant had tried to sell his championship rings. Kobe had sued them. They had apologized. The family had kept moving, but never all the way forward. The same Pamela who received monthly calls from Shaq, who received a restored Land Cruiser for her son's birthday, was the same Pamela who had stood on the opposite side of a courtroom from her son 7 years earlier. These threads do not simplify the story. They complicate it into something that requires context to read. The financial conflict surrounding the Bryant estate did not begin when Kobe died. It began long before, in relationships that were already strained, in promises that may or may not have been made, and in a family architecture that Kobe himself had been engineering and defending since the moment he chose Vanessa over his parents' wishes in 2001. The pattern is not subtle when you lay it out in sequence. In 2001, Kobe's parents don't attend his wedding. In 2013, they try to sell his championship rings without authorization, and he sues them to stop it. In 2020, his wife's mother sues his widow for $5 million. The money at the center of every conflict, Kobe's money, Kobe's rings, Kobe's promises, belonged to a man who is no longer alive to clarify what he meant or whom he meant it for. Vanessa inherited all of it, the money and the battles that came with it. And when the internet went looking for a villain, she was the one left standing. What the record actually shows. If the first 5 years after Kobe's death tell us anything about Vanessa Bryant's financial position, it is this: she has not been spending the estate into ruin. She has been defending it aggressively, methodically, and successfully against challenges that would have dissolved the resolve of most people within the first year of grief. Let's build the picture from the foundation, because the numbers here are not a matter of interpretation. Kobe Bryant's estate was valued at approximately $600 million at the time of his death in January 2020. 2020. The figure incorporated his NBA career earnings, approximately $323 million in salary alone across his 20 seasons, alongside endorsements, intellectual property, and strategic investments. The estate was held in a revocable living trust first established in 2003, shortly after Natalia was born, and amended in 2011, 2017, and at various points in between. The trust's stated purpose, drawn directly from the 2020 court petition that Vanessa and co-trustee Rob Pelinka filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, was to provide a fund for his wife and daughters for their support, care, and maintenance, and at the same time, to provide protection that the trust's assets will be available for Kobe and Vanessa's daughters equally upon Vanessa's death. That petition, filed just weeks after the crash, was itself born from an administrative oversight that viral content would later frame as evidence of dysfunction. Capri Bryant, born in September 2019, had not yet been added to the trust when Kobe died. The 2017 amendment, the last one Kobe signed, predated her birth. The trust lacked an afterborn children clause that would have included her automatically. In March 2020, Vanessa and Pelinka went to court to fix it. The court approved the modification by late October 2020, adding Capri as a beneficiary with equal rights to her 3 sisters. The oversight was corrected in under 8 months, with no dispute, no litigation, and no financial consequence to the estate. Estate attorneys who reviewed the case publicly noted the correction as a textbook example of exactly what California probate law exists to enable: a routine post-death modification when the trust's original intent is clear, but its drafting is incomplete. It was not chaos, it was administration, conducted by any fair reading, responsibly and promptly. Then came Body Armor. Before his death, Kobe had acquired a stake in the sports drink brand Body Armor, a position built through Kobe Inc., his business vehicle, managed in his final years by a small team including executive Molly Carter. When Coca-Cola completed its acquisition of Body Armor in 2021, that stake generated a pre-tax payout estimated at approximately $400 million for the estate. It was one of the most consequential post-death investment outcomes in the history of American sport. An estate that was already worth $600 million at death grew, in a single transaction, by a figure that dwarfed most professional athletes' career earnings. Vanessa was not burning through the estate. She was overseeing it through one of its most significant growth events. And while that was happening, she was also in a fight that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with it. In September 2020, reports began emerging that first responders at the Calabasas crash site had taken photographs of the victims' remains. Not evidentiary photographs, not documentation for any official investigation. Photographs passed on phones at bars and shared with friends outside law enforcement. Photographs that included Kobe Bryant's body and Gianna's. Vanessa filed a federal lawsuit against Los Angeles County, the Sheriff's Department, the Fire Department, and specific named individuals. She alleged invasion of privacy, negligence, and the particular and relentless emotional distress of a mother who could never know whether images of her dead husband and child were circulating on a stranger's phone somewhere in Los Angeles. The case went to federal trial in August 2022. It did not settle quietly. It went in front of a jury. The jury found Los Angeles County liable and awarded Vanessa $16 million. Co-plaintiff Christopher Chester, who lost his wife and daughter in the same crash, was awarded $15 million. In February 2023, LA County settled the remaining claims for an additional $28.85 million total, covering Vanessa, her daughters, and related parties. She donated her portion publicly to the Mamba and Mambacita Sports Foundation. She took a county government to federal trial over photographs of her dead family. She won. She gave the proceeds to charity. That is not the behavior of a woman running short on resources. It is the behavior of a woman who has more money than she needs and is using the legal system at considerable emotional and logistical cost to protect something money cannot buy back. The Body Armor matter had its own legal chapter. In 2022, Molly Carter, former president of Kobe Inc., filed an arbitration claim alleging Kobe had verbally promised her an equity stake in the Body Armor investment. She sought her share of the payout. Vanessa countersued for breach of loyalty, breach of confidentiality, and disparaging conduct against the Bryant family. The arbitrator ruled entirely in Vanessa's favor in June 2023. Carter's claims were rejected in full. Vanessa was awarded more than $1.5 million in attorney fees and costs. 3 major legal confrontations since Kobe's death. 3 outcomes in her favor. The estate critics assumed was being mismanaged has, by every documented measure, been administered exactly as its structure intended. Now, let's return to Shaq, because the deepest irony of this entire narrative is sitting right here in plain sight. The man whose fans used him as a stand-in for Vanessa's alleged failures has spent the last 5 years on the record defending her. Not loudly, not repeatedly, but unmistakably. And before we get there, consider who Shaq was relative to this family for most of his career. He and Kobe won 3 championships together between 2000 and 2002, and he was the centerpiece of every single one of them. Shaq as Finals MVP 3 years running, with Kobe as the electrifying second piece. But even during the dynasty, the off-court relationship was fracturing. By 2003 and 2004, Kobe had told a police investigator that Shaq paid women hush money to cover up affairs. That information leaked publicly in September 2004. Shaq's response in a team meeting was reportedly, "If you say anything like what you said to Jim Gray ever again, I will kill you." Kobe jumped up, ready to go. Brian Shaw stepped between them. The Lakers lost the 2004 finals to the Detroit Pistons in 5 games. That summer, Shaq demanded a trade. The franchise sided with Kobe. Shaq was sent to Miami. Then came 2008. The Lakers lost the NBA Finals to the Boston Celtics, and Shaq went to a nightclub in New York City and performed a freestyle rap. He said, on camera, with no equivocation,
Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes.
The whole club chanting along. That was the peak. That was Shaq at his most combustible toward the Bryant name. That man, the one who rapped about Kobe's inability to win without him, who blamed Kobe for his divorce on a microphone in front of a crowd, is the same man who now calls Pamela Bryant every single month, sends flowers, and gifted her a restored Land Cruiser on what would have been her son's 47th birthday. The distance between those two versions of Shaquille O'Neal is grief. It is the transformation that happens when you run out of time to have the conversation you kept putting off. Shaq has been direct about it. His 2020 memorial speech contained regret underneath the humor. He said, "I wish we would have communicated more. I thought we both were going to get old and have more time." He vowed, in front of 20,000 people, to reach out to the people he loved while he could. And then he did it, monthly, to Pamela. During the Crash Site Photos lawsuit, when Vanessa was in the middle of her federal case against LA County, Shaq appeared in an Entertainment Tonight interview and addressed the situation directly. He said, on camera, with no equivocation, "I feel for her. We've never talked a lot, but we've always had respect for each other. Every time I see her, it's a hug, it's a laugh. I couldn't imagine what she's going through. She's doing a great thing by holding people responsible." He donated proceeds from his Super Bowl party to the Kobe and Vanessa Bryant Foundation. He follows the daughters on social media. He has referred to them as his nieces. He offered to be Uncle Shaq to Natalia, Bianca, and Capri, a direct mirror of how his own children referred to Kobe as Uncle Kobe. The man who inspired a title about exposing Vanessa has, in every documented interaction, done the opposite. There are no mainstream outlets, not People, not ESPN, not the LA Times, that have reported financial distress inside the Bryant estate. No bankruptcy filing exists. No creditor lawsuit exists. No IRS lien has surfaced. Celebrity net worth trackers continue to place Vanessa at approximately $600 million. The trust has operated without reported depletion for 6 years. The Mamba and Mambachita Sports Foundation, which she funds and runs in Kobe and Gianna's names, continues to operate youth sports and education programs in underserved communities. When the court awarded her $16 million, she gave it to that foundation. That is not the financial behavior of a woman in crisis. What exists instead is something harder to reduce to a balance sheet, a family fractured before the crash and more fractured after it. A widow who has spent 5 years defending her children's privacy, winning in court, and managing one of the most significant sports estates in American history. An ex-teammate who turned his grief into monthly phone calls and birthday gestures, directed not at the widow, but toward a grandmother whose relationship with the family has its own 20-year history, its own lawsuits, its own contested loyalty. The gap between Shaq's visibility and Vanessa's silence read as an indictment. It was not one. Shaq never made it. What this video is actually about, when stripped of the framing the algorithm rewards, is the aftermath of a tragedy colliding with 20 years of unresolved family architecture. Kobe's parents and their 2013 auction, Sophia Lane and her 2020 lawsuit, a trust with no provisions for anyone outside Vanessa and the 4 daughters, because that is how Kobe built it, and because those were the choices Kobe made, and because Vanessa inherited every one of them. The internet held her responsible for choices that belonged to her late husband. The contrast between Shaq's gestures and her silence gave that framing a face. The clicks followed. Vanessa Bryant is not broke. The record does not support it. The lawsuits she has won support the opposite. The estate's documented growth supports the opposite. The absence of any creditor, lien, or filing in 6 years of coverage supports the opposite. What the record does support is a family with history, a grief that is still unresolved, a former enemy who became the most visible face of loyalty to a grandmother, and, in doing so, accidentally became the central character in a story about a widow he has only ever defended. That is the story. story, not a financial crisis, not an expose, a man honoring a promise and the internet doing the rest. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.